right?
Yeah, like I felt like I was stumbling in the process of trying to put the parts together instead of like smoothly transitioning from one to the other.
Okay. Um,
That's how I felt. I don't know.
yeah. Did you use the like VSL walkthrough, the intro walkthrough?
Yeah, I was looking at the recording from our previous conversation. I was looking at the VSL that you demoed for us, and I had the Word document that you made.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah. So like a lot of those slides, you can almost copy them word for word.
mhm.
So like I said, the generator itself is made so that like there's little to no thinking involved, like except for like your own little bit of creativity, like in the tips, and connecting pieces, and like using your creative like your creativity to really make it your own. But all those connecting slides,
Mhm.
you can pretty much copy them word for word.
Okay.
Fine. All you'd need to do is just connect the thoughts so they make some sort of like grammatical, logical sense. Um, yeah, perfect. So, all right. I
How
think,
do you want to go about it? Like, you go into the slides? Should we talk about the homework or?
uh, yeah, no, actually, yeah. Let me just talk to Luke now, and then we'll go into the slides and the presentation. Um, Luke, how was like how was your experience with this?
I
And
haven't.
yeah, how did it turn out?
I didn't do the homework because I just moved to to the other side of the country, and I had to pack my bags. And the next day I traveled, and the day after it was my first work day there, so I was kind of
Okay,
tired. But
okay. Did you get a chance to look at the materials though?
no,
No.
not yet. I haven't really had any like time for other stuff than travel
Okay.
and work.
Okay. So everything is pretty much posted. So just feel free to like when you have the time, feel free to look at it. Um,
Yes.
and then I guess I gave you guys the steps on how to do it too. So it should be pretty good. And it
Okay.
should pretty
Great.
much write itself. Okay.
That's
So
nice.
let's get into the slides. I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see. Cool. So this is going to be part two. All right. Cool. Uh, One second. So I've actually made an updated version of my PowerPoint presentation to to reflect the changes that are going to be made. So yeah. So you guys can probably follow it a lot better as well. Um, what we'll do is we will let's see. Okay. So yeah, is can everybody hear me properly or no? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So what we'll do is we will. So I will upload this on the marketing folder, and so this is a newer, updated version of my VSL. And if I need to put more updates, I'll update newer versions, and then we'll just delete the old ones. Or if you guys want, we can keep them. Um, and yeah, um, perfect. So all these newer let's see. Yeah, so these newer like updates, they're going to be reflected in the VSL Bootcamp, and they're going to be reflected in this walkthrough that we're going to be doing like side by side. Um, Perfect. So let's get to it. Uh, and I'll be uploading this too. So this is going to be a walkthrough for uh, the nightmare story, then step three. So step two, 3 and step 4. On our nightmare story. Okay. So, is everybody with me? I kind of heard like a noise, and let me see.
Yeah, we are here.
Okay, perfect. I was just thinking this computer was kind of glitching out.
Just quickly, Sunny, for the questions, should we do like 15 minutes of you talking and then like a pause for possible questions and then you go on? Or you think
Okay,
it's
so this is gonna be pretty. This is gonna be pretty easy. This is gonna be about one slide, like this one full slide of a nightmare story, and then some examples, like some examples going into detail about it. And so basically it's going to be the step 2, step 3, step 4. So at the end of each step, I'll just ask you, Jacob, to give me the questions.
Okay, so we can open up and then questions.
Yeah, so it should be pretty organized, and it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Okay.
Yep, and it's not going to be like questions every step of the way. Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
So now we're going to get started. So we're talking about the nightmare story. So the nightmare story is essentially, a story that brings out a particular pain, and then it emphasizes the pain until it's unbearable, right? So you put a magnifying glass on it, which in turn creates some sort of a turning point. That it's what John calls focal point, right? And a breakout phase, which in turn creates a realization with a learned system, with a particular set of beliefs. I'm sorry, with a particular set of relevant benefits. And then after that, you transition with an open loop from the benefits of your system to the big problem. Okay, and then I'm just going to show you how that's going to happen. And if you'll read this, feel free to read it on your own time. But essentially, what you do is you start creating this conspiracy for step 3. Perfect. And then what you do is right before you go into step 3, you put in "it's not your fault," like literally word for word, just write it's not your fault. So like in the beginning of it, the essential point of the nightmare story is that they feel what you feel, and since you're telling like a really horrible story, you kind of want them to feel bad for you, which is a really good way of showing them that you're not just an expert, right? You're an expert by necessity. And so what it does is it builds rapport much better. And then after that, once you've built rapport with them, then they trust you to not just like brag about what your product is or just sell them. So what they will do is they'll actually they'll listen to you more. They'll since you've built rapport with them, and they'll want to know what this problem is all about. Okay, so this is going to be I'm going to be sending you guys this in the marketing folder as well, and this is going to show you slide by slide how I did my nightmare story and the little things that you guys need to probably put in. I'll probably talk to Josh about this, about the in terms of requests and stuff, so we'll figure that out later. But let me just show you how the nightmare story develops. And you can pretty much copy this slide for slide. And if you don't get all the gist of the nightmare story, that's fine. But whatever parts you can do, feel free to do that. So we'll start with this. This is the modest introduction, right? So it says, now I wasn't always X, Y, and Z. So let's go to our slides. So yeah, so this says, a lot of folks think I was always some guy who had it all figured out and could get anything he wanted. Yet the truth will surprise you. I wasn't always a cosmically aligned guy. In fact, I was far from it. Yeah. perfect. So I don't know if this language is going to change. It's subject to change or not, but we'll find out when with John and everybody else from the VSL. So literally just these two slides, right? So you want to just show them that are you kind of getting yourself off of that expert pedestal, and then after that you go into your overview, your specifics of your nightmare story. So essentially what you're going to be doing here is you're going to be painting a picture, right? So you're starting off an intro. This is like a very good writing style, right? Really good writers and really good stories have a nice, detailed kind of background story to it. So it feels more real, right? Feels more palpable, right? So it's like when, date, time, experiences around you, right? And then you want to write primarily emotionally, how you were feeling at the time, right? Because when you're getting into rapport, you're going to be eliciting more of your feelings, and it's going to make it easier for people to your audience to connect with you. This is about 8 slides, right? So let's get into that 29 to 37. Okay. So the first part of the story is shocking, and it gets really interesting. It was in the summer of 2009 when I had essentially decided to give away the senior partner stake in my previous business. The differences between my previous business partners and I were too vast to ever get things back to normal again. This was the end of the rope for my involvement with the company, and there was no looking back. So I moved out of my financial district apartment into a shoddy, rundown neighborhood with my then girlfriend scraping cents to make ends meet. What do I do now? I thought to myself. And what does this mean for me? My back was against the wall. So you can already see we already painted the start of the story, and now we can go into how it. So you already know from the start of the story it's going to be bad. So now we're going to go into how it gets worse, right? And then even worse from there. Yeah. So the bad part, right? So the bad part is bringing out a particular pain. The difference between this is that you're just kind of putting an overview of the situation. You're not bringing out that brings it out, right? It's a little bit more focus on it. Connect. So basically, towards the end, you connect to a related state, and at the end of this of the bad part, you say something to the effect of, "One more thing had to happen," right? So once you bring out that pain, right, before you put the magnifying glass on the pain, you say, but this wasn't it. One more thing had to happen. And then I'm going to show you this example right now. So 38 to 44. Okay. At this point in my life, I thought that things couldn't get any worse, even though they were about to, right? And I'll share that with you in just a moment. And perhaps you too can relate to that feeling as well. Needing to change, needing to get out of a rut, and finding a better way to do things and operate within the world. You see how this kind of relates to my angle, right? Like a game worth winning, right? Finding a better way to do things, to operate. However, I was pretty much set on the fact that I would continue on this path, dedicating every ounce of my energy to it, painfully trying to crawl. I put these in all caps because I think this will elicit kind of like a pain in the reader. So painfully trying to crawl out of my life situation, even as I found myself watching everything around me helplessly fall and crumble in front of my eyes. Yet, believe it or not, it gets much worse. I knew I was in a position where I needed to change, but a few more things had to happen before I really got it. Cool? Perfect. So now we get into the really bad part, right? This is what John calls the focal point. This is where you magnify the pain. So before the focal point, like, sorry, this is right before the focal point. Oh, sorry. So this is the epicenter of your rock bottom story in slide 1, and then it's almost always location based, and then two, you basically you paint a picture of a certain location and where you did something, right? And John likes to put it like, and then I did it. My worst fears came true, right? So you describe your focal point, right? It's a shameful kind of act, is a moment in your life that should sting, and it's like the final straw. And then you talk about how you feel lost, confused, disappointed, all the bad kind of feelings that you want to like kind of elicit to your reader for the nightmare story, so they can kind of feel it too and experience it. So let's start with that. So over the course of a couple months, I broke out in hives from the stress of managing my losing income and wealth, or what was left of it anyway. And I broke up with my girlfriend at the time that I once thought I would marry one day, because I wasn't in any place to take care of her, much less myself. And when I went to my local coffee shop and had conversations and interactions with people who I would meet that knew me, and people to whom I was a complete stranger to, having conversations on topics from anything to small talk and lighthearted conversation, to laying out plans for business projects and opportunities. I realized that my default manners of doing things and interacting with the world just weren't working anymore. I even found myself forgetting how to use any of the tools and resources I had learned in career games in the first place. So this is perfect. So I went to the nearest solitary bench and I did it. Right. This is putting the location into place. I accepted defeat of everything that I had built up, every part of my identity that I had thought was true and knew for a fact, and buried my face in my hands. And I let out the biggest sigh I had ever experienced in my life up until that point. I noticed a tattoo on my forearm that I had gotten years ago when I was 21. I'm not sure when he got it, which said, "I do not know." I knew right then and there that my life and the way I operated with the world needed to change completely. The wool was pulled from over my eyes. I arrived to the conclusion that these business, relationship, and life games were proving to be too difficult for me to handle juggling. These games started to own me, taking over my life, my peace of mind, and made everything a literal hell on earth. Actually, I want to stop it to right now. Does everybody get that? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, perfect. So that's a really bad part. That's where you magnify the pain, and you really paint the picture of how everything is kind of owning Josh's life at the time. Perfect. So now we get to the Declaration of Independence. This is basically, it's gotten so painful, right? He has to do something about it, just to get out of this situation, and it's just too much, and it gets to a point where you just don't want to ever have this happen to you again. Declaration of Independence is all promise, vow. This is eight slides, right? 60 to 68. I made a vow, a promise to myself that was like my own personal Declaration of Independence. I was going to find out what was at the bottom of all these games that seemed to go on forever and were infinitely long. And I was determined to find the one overarching game that did have an end, and that would end all these other much smaller games. Once I would find this game, I would devise a strategy, a plan, find out how it worked, and learn how to win it. And once I would achieve that, I could actually sit back and enjoy being rewarded by it afterwards, instead of draining my energy on loss from my time and creative energy and left me out to dry. I was determined to win this game. This was the game of no games. This was the only game worth winning. So this is the Declaration of Independence, the breakout promise. And then after that, what happens is you have a moral journey, right? Uh, that's what John likes to call it, moral journey to freedom. He also likes to call it the hero study, right? So this section usually ends with uh, kind of the realizations that you have in this system, and today I'm going to share it with you. Right, so I'm going to show you this. So I went on my personal journey to find this game. I read my fair share of books. I looked through my old notes and teachings on everything related to psychology, Zen, philosophy, spirituality, meditation, and a whole host of other stuff. And I eventually ended up leaving my place in New York City altogether to go on a personal quest to find out what anything really meant to me. After a long time of soul searching, I finally came up with an answer that I was happy with. And thanks to that turning point, I uncovered a secret blueprint that works for just about anyone, almost every time. And only in this presentation today, you'll discover it for yourself. Okay. Yeah, so you find some way to end it, like, these are the benefits that I got from my system, my blueprint, and, you know, these can happen for you as well. Now, after that, transition to the big problem, and what you just want to show, what you want to reiterate is that you're no different than them, right? So the first part was, you know, you're an expert. Then after that, you get off the pedestal, right? And then they might be thinking, oh, well, but he's an expert, and maybe this is just like a freak thing. And that's when you have to bring them back to the fact that actually, you know, I'm no different than you. This is not, you know, this is not like an unattainable thing, right? So you should be able to do this. So this is slides 74, 75. Remember, despite my recent success, I'm really no different than you. And like I said, you can copy this pretty much word for word. I'm just a person who decided enough was enough and didn't settle until he found out how things really are and not how he wanted them to be. Now you can transition to the system. So essentially, John writes it like this. This is a system that allows people like us, and inclusion is another thing that John likes to use. It's a good way to put everybody in, you know, kind of in a certain group, and they want to feel like they belong. Well, it really helps for like product sales, right? These are the smart people that bought my weight loss product, so do the smart thing, right? So this is a system that allows people like us, inclusion, to experience 3 benefits of the USP, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this. I know that John, for his product, uses like a gender non-specific image. So actually, like, since John is a guy, he'll use like a girl feeling fit, right, on a weight scale. But that way it lets people know that it appeals to both men and women. And I know that our product is going to be appealing to both men and women, so I think we might be doing something like this. But let me just show you what it looks like. So slides 76 to 78. Okay. This blueprint is created for men and women who, just like us, want to not only recognize and win the game of no games, but also discover the true nature of our being and receive answers to some of our biggest questions in this lifetime. Yeah. While allowing us to experience unparalleled clarity, peace of mind, and the complete and utter freedom we never even thought was possible. Okay. So now we go into the results of the system, right? Personalize and then reverse it back to them. This is the system that allows specific results, and you know, that allowed me to do this and this, right? And then end with, and I'm going to share this with you. Okay. This is a system. So this is a system I personally use to achieve this higher level of awareness and realization from where I operate and interact with the world. John says he wants to have specific examples. I'm not sure if every specific example is going to be used for whichever VSL, but I'm just going to put this one as an example, right? It allowed me to form and manage a multi-million-dollar company in 2 years and meet the girl I had always wanted for decades from absolutely nothing. And it's the same exact system I'll be sharing with you today, so you can finally experience results like these for yourself. Yeah, like again, like I said, I'm not sure if we're going to be using these exact examples, but just so you guys got an idea, some sort of specifics are going to be put in here, and we're probably going to tweak it to our audience. Okay. So yeah, so towards the closing, you have your final transition phase. And the first slide is going to be kind of, you open loop the benefits of the system, right? So you say, before I get into the benefits of my system, then 2, you shift to the big problem, right? Hidden foe that causes these problems, and then you close with it's not your fault. So I'll show you this right now. Now I'll give you the specifics in just a moment. First, however, I feel compelled to be honest with you so I can let you know about a real and serious problem you face right now. This is the obstruction standing in the way of your cosmic purpose, and it is the invisible villain behind why you seem to be addicted to playing all these smaller games, which is keeping you from achieving the level of success that you previously thought was impossible. And I just want you to know, it's okay, I forgive you, because being addicted to games is not even your fault. Okay, so that's the end of the nightmare story. So you're like, okay, it's not my fault. It's not my fault for what? Okay, questions?
Nothing came up, so no questions.
Okay, perfect. So I guess everybody understands it. So now we're going to go into the step 3, the big problem. Cool. So the objectives of step 3 are to bring out a lie, right? You want to kind of pull over the veil, and what you want to make them feel is that the cause of their problem is greater. Like, getting rid of that cause is greater than the pain, right? Sometimes people will be like, okay, they're like, okay, it's kind of painful, but I don't really care. But people will stay comfortable. But this is a way to make them find that cause, because it's a lie that they never even knew, right? And you just want to build it up. So what you do is you create a conspiracy, right? You create some sort of a villain that you can externalize, right? So you some sort of externalized concept, right? It doesn't have to be a person or whatever, but it has to be, something you can externalize that's not them, so you can absolve their responsibility and remove their guilt. Because too many people do blame themselves. And this is not the place to do that. But yeah, this is the place to blame this other thing, right? So you blame the villain, right? This sort of external object, and then you put this big truth on them, right? So you say, okay, so this is the fault. So it's like this external object is the reason why these things are happening, right? And this is why it's happening. So this is the big truth. And what happens is that after you tell them what lies they've been believing, right? Then you go into reappointing responsibility to them. It wasn't your fault, but now that you know, it's your responsibility to solve the situation, right? And then you go into how how their life will be like if they don't take responsibility. Then what you do is after that, when you close, you kind of open loop to your bigger solution, your 3 tips, right? Now that you're aware of the lies, let's dive into the 3 tips I have for you to take your life back, right? Yeah, perfect. So the beginning part, they want to thank you for kind of opening up their eyes, pulling over the veil, and what you want them to do is you want them to feel responsible, but not guilty, right? And then after that, Not that they don't feel guilty about it, but they do feel like they want to take action, right? So I remember the last call we talked about how step 3 kind of connects. This is how it connects. It connects it from kind of the bridge between just watching a presentation towards taking action, right? So they go from, okay, that was kind of cool, and now it's like, thank you for opening my eyes. This is a problem I need to solve, right? And they say, how do I stop this, right? So that's how you know you've succeeded in your job of effectively doing writing the big problem. So I'm going to walk you through this. Step 3, right? So first part is a big lie transition. And it always starts with something like, this may surprise you, even anger you. That way you get them more like an emotional state of something needs to be done about this, right? But you've been lied to for years. So let me show you that right now. So literally, word for word, this may surprise you, even anger you, but you've been lied to unknowingly for years. And these lies have prevented you from succeeding at the game of no games. Okay? Now you go into your big lie loop. The first slide usually starts with many people believe, right, whatever your lie is. However, second slide, that's just nowhere near the truth. Third one is, just know this, countless other men and women just like you, right, have fallen into this lie. This is really good because if they feel like they're blaming themselves, if you say that other people have also fallen for this, and you can also say that you fell for it, they don't feel so bad. And then 4, if you don't, effects of believing the lie, then you talk about what will happen, right? And then you close this lie loop with, this is not what I want for you, right? I don't want you to go believing these lies, and I don't want the results of your lies happening like that. So let me just show you the example slides, 92 to 100. Many folks believe that you have to win every game in order to be happy, just to see success in your quality of life. Maybe you are one of those people, just like I was. However, that's just nowhere near the truth. Just know this. Countless other smart men and women have fallen victim to this clever lie, yet you have to lay it aside right now. If you don't, you'll be running around trying to win all these smaller games in an endless series of spinning plates and juggling tasks forever. You will end up stressed out, without much to show for it at the same time, losing everything and gaining very little substance in your life. These games will drain all of your creative and intellectual energy while leaving you in shambles. They will always insatiably demand more energy, more time, and even more dedication, regardless of other important priorities in your life. Listen, this is not what I want for you, and I know it's not what you desire for yourself, right? Chances are, if they're watching this, that's not what they want. And I don't think anybody. It's a pretty safe bet to make. So you can use words like I know. Usually, John stays away from assuming about people and like how they're feeling. But when you paint a picture that's really horrible, you can state words like I know this is not what I want. This is not what you want for yourself. Okay. So now after that, right? Now that you say this is not what I want for you, and this is what's going to happen if you keep believing these lies, then you can reappoint the responsibility, right? It's not your fault, but now that you know, it is your responsibility to resolve, right? Your addiction to games is not your fault. However, for your own peace of mind, it is your ethical responsibility to resolve. Okay. And then now you go into blame this, right? If you really need to blame something, blame this. Externalize your blame object or concept. And then the second slide, why X is to blame, and then proof, if available, send a further explanation, right? And then 4, they even fooled me for years. Slides 1, so let me show you that. If you really feel a need to blame yourself, don't. If you really feel a need to lay blame, don't lay it on yourself. Blame your ego. After all, you've been bombarded for years by lies perpetuated by something you thought was your best friend. And I'm not just simply talking about believing your own lies. I'm talking about believing lies from something as simple as TV shows, advertising, magazines, to falling prey to lies as complex as your friends and your closest loved ones. People you know and love who have made you believe things that they thought were true that weren't, simply because they didn't know any better. Your ego, in its desire to save itself, tells you a big lie that essentially means if you don't play these games, you will die. And it counts on your suffering and confusion to maintain control of your life, control of the life you have always wanted, with fear. And the lies that your ego tells are so clever, so convincing, that it fools the smartest of us, including me. I fell for all these lies for years. Okay, perfect. Now this is where I close my pattern interrupt loop, which I started all the way in the beginning, and actually use it also. I use it in my nightmare story. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I want you guys to use this. I close it in in step 3. I mean, in step 3, the big problem. But I want you guys to link it to your nightmare story. That's the way John did it. So that's recommended. But I'm just going to show you how I close my loop, right? So eventually, that one thing they're curious about, if you don't close it, usually it's usually a good thing to close it, so that it kind of gets them out of the way. They don't feel kind of like ripped off. Okay, so slides 112 to 121. Remember when I mentioned this image all the way in the beginning? This little I represents your ego, while an uppercase I represents your higher self. If you don't know this by now, I'll break the news to you. Yes, you do actually have a higher self. Try this. When you're thinking about your higher self, think of yourself as the uppercase I. Whenever you're talking about your ego self, think of it as a lowercase I. This is a technique that I learned in Zen to help me separate my ego self from my higher self, and now you have effectively learned to separate your ego from the real you. This is the truth as I see it. No matter how convincing it may be, your ego is not you. Okay? Perfect. So then after that, we get into the big truth, right? And you always start that off with the truth and the fact of the matter is, right? Now you can actually kind of you talked about these lies and what kind of effects they have. Now you can talk about what's true, right? And the second slide is if you end up falling for it, the results, right? The results of it, like the first result of what would happen if you end up falling for it, the second, the third, right? Yeah, perfect. So let me show you that. The truth and the fact of the matter is that you should always, truth and fact of the matter is you should always take your ego with the biggest grain of salt possible. Because if you fall for it, your fears will end up owning you and start running your life at the expense of the real you. The reason why this is the case is because your ego lies to you and makes you addicted to playing smaller games that waste your time, energy, and peace of mind. Plus, your ego actually makes you feel guilty and takes these smaller games personal and serious when you're losing them, even if it's not your fault and out of your control. And it robs you of experiencing your true calm default state, which emanates awareness, peace of mind, and clarity at all times. Okay, so then we get into the bigger solution open loop, right? So now we talked about the big truth, right? You should always take your ego with the biggest grain of salt. Your ego, for the most part, is not your friend. and then now we can go into what you can do about it, right? So the first slide is, now that you're aware of the lies, let's dive into the, I think you can put more than 3, but we're just going to have 3. These were the achieve, right? And then fit right your how-to tip T's. Now I have to tell you my coin term for prime benefit tip. It's good for your last, like a coin term. I called mine the self-evident technique. That's just a thing I could think of off the top of my head, and it sounded like it had a pretty good meaning to it. I have to tell you my self-evident technique is a real game changer. Really life-changing. The most important tip, and then you'll go into your tip loop for step 4 for the big problem. Slides 127 to 130. Okay. Now that you're aware of the lies and how they have crippled your life success for years, let's dive into the 3 tips I have for you today to gain some of that success back. I think this is really powerful. Back. So let's say you were, it says that, 2. That's the cool part. It actually says you had a life before you were lied to, so things were actually kind of good, a lie. So not only do you have a kind of like a personal responsibility to not believe the lies so you can have a better life, but you can get the life that you previously had back, right? Perfect. So these exact tips were my personal ego-killing gold mine, leading me to the success I have. So ego killing, right? Gold mine, leading me to the success I have today, and you soon will have. I have to tell you, my self-evident exercise is a real game changer. This is cool because this whole slide, this whole VSL is about the game of no games, right? It's my personal favorite for most of my success. Yeah, so and we go into the bigger solution, right? Now, before I cover it, so this might feel like it wasn't like a nice close, but the reason why you talk about your tips is because then you say, before I cover my how-to tip, my main tip, and how it's so crucial, I have to share something with you. So keep watching. Then you go into your avoid tip. Okay, now I'm going to open this up to any kind of questions you guys might have.
Yeah, Luke asked if when the angle is game of no games, shouldn't you explain what games are?
Yeah, I think it's a hard one for me to write it down, but I personally wrote it down as like my life, relationship, and career games. So I know that I might have like whizzed by it pretty fast, but it was kind of explained there that I was playing a very serious game. I might just go back. So like I might just go back and start putting more detail into my game of no games VSL, so people really get that, like hit that point home. So that's definitely something that I would consider for my VSL. But for you guys, yeah, it's definitely recommended that you guys try to paint as good of a picture, so not only that people can see it, but that people can really, like, it can really click for people to make sense. So what I'll do is, for me personally, I will check it again and see if that does make sense. Not just if I whiz by it in this presentation, but if I were to like, right. Any other questions?
No, nothing there. Luke left the group too, so he didn't get your answer, but he will see it in the recordings.
Okay.
No, nothing else.
Okay, so the pattern interrupt, the pattern interrupt and the kind of like the object, right? So where I close this pattern interrupt loop with my my little letter I, right? Um, I try to kind of use it in my nightmare story, but what you want to do is you want to close that loop in your nightmare story, right? So let's say if you were talking about, um, like you're going to die angle, and then who is it? Evan said it. From the last recording, he said a really good point about pattern interrupt comparisons. Is that you want to find something that's like find a couple of things that relate to like surfing, right? Like your surfboard, uh, like wax, right? So you put some wax on your surfboard, so this like ball of wax can show you your deepest answers to life. So you want to close that loop in your nightmare story, and yeah, and also John Benson's nightmare story. He kind of he talks about he was really like he says he was really fat in his 30s and had a mullet. And yeah, so he talks about like in his Magic Jacket VSL, he talks about hiding, like, and then I did it. I hid these donuts in my jacket, and I think like the breaking point was that he realized that nobody really even noticed if he had anything in his jacket, so he just assumed that since he was so like overweight that he was just fat and nobody cared. And I think that was like his turning point, that like uh, looking at his jacket, he said like, I'm going to take care of this. I'm not like going to let food imprison me again, right? So that's how he ended it. And then what we can do is after this, we can also talk amongst each other, and I can lead you into writing and closing your loops better in the nightmare problem. If we don't have any other questions, I'm just going to move forward to the next step. Perfect. All right. Step 4. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, so this is going to be the last step, right, before we get to, and this is probably going to be the close of our session. Then we're going to open up to Q&A. Step 4, so you open your tip loop, right? Before I share specifics on the how-to tip, your main tip, right, and why it's so crucial to your success, I want to share this. So let me show you that right here. Now, before I cover the specifics behind why my self-evident technique is so, literally, see verbatim, is so crucial to your inner success, I have something to share with you, right? I have to share something with you, so keep watching. Okay. So now you go into the avoid tip, right? Avoid tip is avoid this if you want to experience the benefits of. Remember, your USP had your prime benefit, which is for your how-to tip, and then enabler 1 and 2. So the avoid tip is you want to avoid this if you want to experience the benefits of 1 or 2, right? Enabler 1 or 2. So let's go into that. Yeah. So keep watching. First, you absolutely need to know about avoiding the rat race mentality if you want to have, complete clarity of mind, right? We talked about that as one of our enablers in our USP, and a clear path to winning the game of no games. It just might surprise you that most people actually believe putting tremendous amounts of your energy into winning all these life games is actually a good thing. However, this isn't true. In fact, it's only good to do if you're a teenager who's learning to master self-discipline and paving a path for yourself for the first time as a young adult. Unless you avoid this mentality like the plague, you're in for some serious headaches in your goal of what I like to call, this is another coin term that I'm going to be using, complete self-actualization. So John recommends having certain coin terms, having a coin term for your how-to tip, and then having a coin term for what you want to like experience or accomplish. Um, makes things a lot easier. Here's what it is. I want you to stop comparing yourself to other people. See what you would really like to do if nobody ever existed except you. Where would your priorities lie if you didn't have anybody to impress or live up to? Already knows the answer. That should be how you should live your life every day from now on. Okay? So that's our avoid tip. Are we going to our enjoy tip? Enjoy tip is for what if thinkers, right? What if? So it's a really good way to really good way to start off. An enjoy tip is by what if you could actually enjoy, right? Goal, which is maybe like winning the game of no games, without and kind of you know how you have benefits for your enablers. This is kind of like without the anti-benefit, right? Whatever the opposite of the benefit is of enabler 1 or 2, right? So let me show you that right now. Let's see. Okay. Now, one of the things that really shocks my readers is the fact that you can actually enjoy the freedom of being unattached to your life games, right? While still going strong on achieving your life-rewarding mission to winning the only game worth winning. Right, so this is tying into my enabler, right? More like, I guess the opposite of this would be like without being constrained, right? Like going on your mission for trying to win the game of no games without feeling the opposite of freedom would be like being constrained, right? Without feeling constrained by any kind of other tasks that you would have to do that come from left field, right? While still going strong and achieving your life rewarding mission to winning the only game worth winning, right? So I used to hate juggling these games, but I figured out a way to really have fun with it. So you see, enjoy, freedom, and fun, okay, are in red. Here's how you do it. I want you to realize that these games you're playing right now are going to go on forever, even if you stop playing them. Kind of like playing a game where there is an unlimited time limit or innings, no quarters or half times, and even if you do get off the field or just up and quit, the game is still going to go on without you, and they're still telling your score and performance. All you need to do is realize that at best you can simply be in a temporary state of winning. So all you have to do now is say these two things out loud while visualizing this. One, I'm never going to win this, and two, I don't care. See, stating these two truths causes these two things to happen as a result. One, you can call these situations out for what they really are, games that are impossible to win. And two, you can actually hold yourself accountable verbally for not taking these games seriously ever again. You have built up a several year, so now I'll go explain it. So you have built up a several year-long habit of comparing yourself to people who think these games are real, simply because they think these games have an end. Most people take these games very seriously, and even if you didn't believe these games were real in the first place, it's a very strong possibility that this behavior was not only accepted, but encouraged in you from childhood all the way up until now. It's time to let these beliefs go and enjoy these games from a completely new perspective. And you could even put these in red, right? Enjoy and new. Actually, let me just put it now. People really love, especially people that are kind of in an enjoy state, right? They really love things that are new and novel. People just generally love novelty. So you can believe anything to be positive or negative. So instead of thinking of yourself as rolling a rock uphill forever, see these games as something to enjoy and be a part of whenever you want, and something to watch from a distance whenever you find things are not going your way. Remember this: you are not your games, and you shouldn't forget, because why put your energy into something that goes on forever? Simply have fun with it because you have a bigger game to win. The game of no games. The game worth winning. Okay? So that's our enjoy tip. in a nice loop, right? A nice closed thought process, right? And then just go. So the end is just explaining it a little bit better, so they really get it. So remember, these 3 tips are going to be really important, right? They can make or break your VSL. So you want to make sure you get all your value in there. So the last one is your how-to tip. The how-to tip is pretty self-explanatory. You kind of go step by step. I see it's already kind of 2 o'clock here, so I'm going to try to whiz by it. But you know, you're going to be working on your how-to tip, and then what's really going to be important is just transitioning it to your grand offer, and I'll show that right after we just show you the how-to tip. Okay. So now so yeah, you can literally start off with this. Now it gets even better because here comes my really big, massive, crucial tip. Right, you can use this as a setup. Right, these 2. This is my power tip, the one that you have to do no matter what. Otherwise, the tips I just gave you are pretty much useless. You want to show it as like the one that really helps facilitate all the other tips. This is a tip that will really tap into the truth of your cosmic nature. First, I want you to take a piece of paper. So I'm actually in the yeah. Just because of the time, I'm gonna kind of skip it. But I'm just going to give you a brief overview of it. Essentially, what I do is I do two-step exercise. One is where I tell them on a piece of paper, I tell them to write something that they think is absolutely true, right? And then then I tell them under whatever answer they get, you know, write that they don't know what's true for sure. Then after that, I ask them to look in their nearest mirror and ask themselves who they are, and they say I'm something, right? And I say it's probably the real you. And then I say, okay, so I am something, right? You can just write I am for short. So you say I am and I do not know. And with these, so the end of it is with these 2 realizations, I am and I do not know. I want you to see everything around you with those 2 truths, right? Challenge yourself to see how long you can hold this mentality for, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, or as long as you possibly can. And then I go into the benefits of it, right? Yeah. So we just go into the benefits of it, right? And then let's see, 198. Okay. So now I actually try to link it to kind of like the USP, right? This is actually the true nature of your being. This is the optimal mode in real time. You know how we said in the USP you discover the true nature of your being and answers to your biggest questions in life. This is touching into the biggest prime benefit, right? This is the optimal mode in real time. It's also known as your flow state, and this state becomes your, and this is really good, right? And this state becomes your default when you win the game of no games. And this is what he's saying. In fact, if you do this enough times, right? Remember what we said about tips? They have to be they have to be solid, but they also have to be vague, right? They have to be informative and everything, but they still have to be vague. Like if you do this enough, if you do that enough times. In fact, if you do this enough times, you can actually win the game of no games, right? Perfect. So, and then that's usually what people do if they have like a product that you know, you have to pay for. If you do this at the right time, if you do this at whatever, right? And the only way to know that is if they bought their book. In any case, you know, you can wrap it up here, and then you transition to the grand offer, right? And basically, the first slide is basically saying, you know, okay, that was a ton of info, that was a lot to cover, and you may be feeling overwhelmed, which is true because you gave them a lot of logical information and, well, a lot of information in general. Do this, do that. This is, you know, this and that concept, and this, you know, all these other concepts about this subject matter, right? And So you actually want them to feel overwhelmed, but it also says you may be feeling overwhelmed, right? Remember, we're still in rapport here, so what you want to kind of emanate is that you're more interested in how they're feeling, right? Um, the next slide is going to be basically you have two choices, right? Choice one is your choice of how you go about it without assistance. Um, so usually when people sell products, they're saying, okay, you can pretty much you could go with it, go it alone without any kind of assistance, right? Um, they wouldn't recommend it, right? And then there's choice two, something that's already laid out and tell me and others, right? And then after that, you can say, I've already done the work for you, this, and then you will like a view in your product. Okay, that was a ton of valuable information, and you may be feeling a bit unsure of where and how to get started, and that's fine. Basically, this means you have only two choices on where to go from here. Choice one, you can take all the tips and info I just gave you and try to put the puzzle pieces together on your own without assistance. And who knows, maybe you're meant to go on this journey alone, and you may get to see some progress that way. You can choose this. Or you can take choice number two and read my system that I personally use to help me achieve genuine peace of mind and true quality of life for me and my students. This is the quickest, so you go into the emphasis of this. This is the quickest, easiest, and most efficient method that I've come across to allow anyone to win at the game of no games, the only game worth winning. I personally thought this felt more honest to me to not push them into saying, oh, well, this is, John says you can say, because if you're especially if you're selling product, you can say this is the smart choice. So if they don't choose that choice, then it's stupid. But the truth is, I think some people it very well could be the truth that they have to go on this journey alone. So I really don't think we should try to pull them out of that, especially if that's the way they want to do it. But I do say this is the quickest, easiest, and most efficient method that I personally come across to allow anyone to win at the game of no games, the only game worth winning. So just if they do respond to it and they just do feel to take that route, they can take it. Something that has helped me and others, right, effectively achieve the clarity and peace of mind. Now, it doesn't just work for me, it also works for others. Effectively achieve the clarity and peace of mind available to win at the game of no games, right? Let me do the work for you, as you very well know I already have, and then you can get into your grand offer, right? Right. I'm Josh Pelsier. I'd like to introduce you to the inner game system, right? And then you go into your USP. Okay. So let me show you that. I'm Joshua Pelsier, and I'd like to introduce you to the inner game system. The inner game system is the only step-by-step product of its kind to not only give you the most refreshing and groundbreaking tools and strategies to help you win the game of no games, the only game worth winning, it's also specifically designed to wake you up to the true nature of your being, answering some of your biggest questions in this lifetime, right? This is like the USP word for word, right? While allowing you to experience unparalleled clarity, peace of mind, and the complete and utter freedom you never even thought was possible. Okay, so this concludes part 2 of what we need to do, and now I guess we can open it up to any questions.
Awesome. That was a lot of information, I think. There's not many questions out there. Maybe we open up Raphael and
That's perfect.
Unmute yourself. And if you have questions, we can go for the questions.
Yeah.
There.
I definitely put my USB in the wrong place. It's just like you make it look so easy, and then like when I try to put it together, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, it's actually the USB was actually also very kind of difficult for me and kind of tricked me when I first started. But basically, you'll have some sort of a core like a thing that people can benefit from, your biggest benefit, and then kind of the effects. Right, benefit is
Sonny, your audio is
Benson has
going
his
out. Maybe you switch off your camera. Maybe that works better.
Okay, yeah, let me do that. How do I do that? Trying to better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So John says, like, I think in his product every other day diet, right? He says it allows, like, his prime benefit is, I think, allowing people to lose weight, but they also have the freedom to eat their favorite foods, right? Well, actually, no. It allows people to have the freedom to eat their favorite foods while still lose weight and look really good, right? So that's why the every other day diet is really big, because the prime benefit of it is that you can eat all your really good like favorite foods. You can eat pizza or whatever, but then but you can still look good and you can still lose weight, right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah. What I mean is like where the USP goes in the video, like, because I was working or on the
Oh,
VSL, like I was working on, I had like 20 slides, and I went through like a
okay.
little introduction. I got to the pattern interrupt. I had my little picture of like a surfboard. I I created the open
Okay.
loop. Before I tell you, I'm going to tell you a story, blah, 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 deal, okay, and then I just had like the last square, so I can insert nightmare story here because I have a knot in it. But I had,
That sounds good. Do you want to share your? Yeah.
sure, yeah. Uh,
Do you want to? Do you want to try sharing your screen, and then I could probably lead you through it?
sure. Oh, crap. Wait, can you guys see that? Or is it
I can
just
see
the
it.
audio? Okay.
I can see it.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just run through it. So it goes, what I have to say is controversial, but I want you to know people who've gone through this process have had incredible results. So watch this video until the end, because in just a few minutes I'm going to tell you how this surfboard will help you achieve unparalleled success by helping you discover your universal cosmic purpose, by guiding you to your true self and let go of everything that's holding you back. I'm going to teach you a step-by-step method for success without spending any money memorizing mantras or attending seminars. This is all that I ask because I don't really know.
That's fine. That sounds like
Um,
a yeah.
Now I'm going to keep this presentation up for as long as I can because shit, I didn't finish last slide. I don't know what to put there because what I'm about to tell you is something. But before I
Okay.
do, I want to tell you a story that will unlock the secrets to what I'm saying. Watch until the end, and all your questions will be answered. Deal, and then okay.
That's perfect, because the homework that I gave you guys, especially the intro part, that's about as much as I want you guys to write. And yeah, so feel free to use these. Like a lot of them can be used like verbatim,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's perfectly fine. One thing I would say is surfboard is probably going to be, a change to something like a ball of wax, right? Like you could probably say like I was putting some wax on my surfboard, right?
Right. Okay.
That's when I realized. And then the nightmare story is also going to be kind of is going to help you as well. Like, and then this happened, right? It's usually like I did some sort of thing, right? Um, like the jacket story.
Mm-hmm.
John is fat. Like he's fat. He's like he has a mullet. He's like in his 30s and he is like depressed, right? And he's actually like very very fit now, but his jacket, like he he was already having a pretty bad time. He went to the store and like got donuts, and he realized he left his money in his skinny jacket or like his other jacket in his job, and that he just gonna steal those donuts. So I put it, so that's like a, and then I did it, right? Like that, I hit like the, just when I thought I couldn't go any lower, I did this one thing that made it go even lower. I try to use that example in my pattern interrupt. Let me see if I can find it. Not my pattern interrupt, in my nightmare story. Just to give you guys kind of like an idea. The only thing is you're just going to completely close that loop in your nightmare story. Let's see. See if I can find it. Okay, perfect. So there you go. Right. So I went to the nearest. Oh, let me share my screen. Actually, I'm not sharing my screen. Okay. So I went to the nearest solitary bench, and then I did it. Right. I accepted defeat of everything that I had built up, right? Every part of my identity that I thought was true, right, and knew for a fact, and buried my face in my hands. And then I let out the biggest sigh I had ever experienced up until in my life up until that point, and noticed the tattoo that I had gotten years ago, right? I do not know, right? So what I can do is I can probably close my loop over there, and I can actually shift it towards like ego and how everything is kind of a game, right? So I recommend you guys to close your loops for your comparisons and your pattern interrupts in that manner. Okay?
I actually have a question related to the nightmare story for the I'm going to die angle. Because if you use that surf story, right? How you at the beginning you said the nightmare story should start with something bad. How would you start a surf story with something bad? Because I try to, like, only for practice reasons, try to sketch out a nightmare story, and I was like, of course, when I go surfing, it's like super positive at the beginning.
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. That's you can actually use that for the overview, right? And then you can say something like, and I think Josh should probably have an idea of like telling a story very well. Like I'm sure like he also likes surfing, right? So like when you go, you feel like it's positive. You can literally say, oh yeah, I was feeling the wind and everything, and but then after a while you can say, okay, but I just noticed that these waves started getting bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't think anything bad of it at the time, right? So what happens is you can actually have like a kind of benign day, and then this thing kind of comes and becomes more of a presence that you're like, okay, that I should notice this, and now it's negative, right?
Yeah.
And then you can say, right? Then you can say after, and you can say like, okay, and then once I didn't even realize I got hit by this gigantic set wave, right? And then you can get worse. Like you can literally go into more detail about it and how you were feeling at the time, and so you can see how that's possible, right?
Yeah. So while you're like telling that story, you zoom out and tell about how you felt in that moment in your life too.
Which part, like in the overview part
You
or
say
the
like
back
the
part?
big, like the big wave, like all that stuff happening, and you're probably like underwater drowning, and then you don't know
Yeah.
top to bottom, and like water fills your lungs and shit like that.
Yep. More detail is what you need. Whenever you want to put a magnifying glass on an experience, you start putting more detail on it.
Okay, you
And
zoom in.
yeah, you zoom in, and people will feel closer and closer to you.
Okay, so what I also meant is, while telling the story, like put it into context, telling, I don't know, 2007, I just like felt like I was going nowhere in life while I was surfing. Like relate that to your context and how you feel in life in general in that time.
Uh, you can I mean, it's all about the one story that you're telling, right? So you don't have to say like, oh, if you're in a good or a bad mood. You just have to set the mood, and then
Mm-hmm.
make it go bad. So
Okay,
yeah. So
got it.
so it does, yeah, because especially when you're painting the overview, people are not gonna care because it's so broad. They're gonna be like, oh, he's just a guy, right? But when you
Mm-hmm.
start going into detail that it's your lungs and like this and they're filling up with water, then they're gonna like the. I think I've heard this term where it says the more personal you get into a feeling,
Mm-hmm.
the more universal they become.
Mm-hmm.
So you start going more and more into details of like more and more of a personal feeling in your lungs when you're like about to drown, right? You don't have any air left. You don't know what's going on. This has been something I've never been. I've had times where like I've been in the water for too long, but this is different. This is not. Nobody's around me. Nobody's gonna come save me. You
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
This you can feel it, right? You can feel it.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Visualize it.
Cool.
Okay. Um, Perfect. I have a question. Do you know what if have you talked to Josh at all about like any kind of requests for stories?
No, but
Okay.
I just like checked in with him and he's back. I think yesterday he came back.
Okay, perfect. So I
We
guess
can- I think it's good to have him tell us the surf story,
hmm
right, Raphael? And then any other story that comes to mind that he would use for a nightmare story.
hmm yeah, and I need to actually check in details with him for the game of no game story.
Yeah, I liked it
So
already. It's cool.
yeah, perfect. So what we can do is we can maybe make a request sheet on the marketing folder,
Hmm.
like and then just put a request for nightmare stories.
Yeah.
Or like requests for like a pattern interrupt object and how you want it to connect, especially if it has a special pattern interrupt object, and we can really go into detail, right?
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so perfect. Um, no questions, right? I don't think we have any questions.
Nothing else, no?
Okay, so I'm just gonna let you guys know. So I just put in the newly updated VSL. So I'm going to upload that in the marketing folder, and then I'm going to upload our walkthrough, like actually the walkthrough that I have with the corresponding slides that you can read it slide by slide, and then I'm going to re-upload the VSL Bootcamp because I added more content, so the slide numbers changed,
Yes.
right? So so all that stuff is going to be available for you guys. Also, make sure, not feel free, make sure to put your angles in the VSL folder in the Google Docs. It says angles for VSL.
Hmm.
So we get everybody brings something. I think, yeah, that should be about it. I'm anticipating that we're going to have 3 VSLs that how to. I don't know if this is going to be for a fact. How to a what if and avoid and avoid VSL and like and enjoy VSL.
Yeah.
So a how to and a why and a what if. Perfect. All right. Sounds good.
Yeah,
And
so
I'll
what
see you
the
guys.
next steps are that we just like get into the writing and then talk about it
Yes.
on the marketing board.
Yes. I think that's the next step. I would say um, we let's see, we should start doing like live brainstorming, and then we'll go through all of our VSLs, right?
Yeah,
Each one by one, and then we will tweak everybody's angles, USP, so it's really nice and streamlined.
that sounds good. So starting beginning of next week, something like that. Or
Yeah, let's give everybody like next week. What do you think is a good time? Next Sunday, or maybe even like next Wednesday?
okay. Luke is saying Monday. For I'm pretty flexible, so I would. What works for you, Raphael?
Okay.
I'm okay. He's good with Monday. So
Okay.
Monday, does that work for you, Sonny?
I'm fine with this time. If you guys put it at a later time, that's even better for me. This is
Okay.
afternoon for me, so that's.
Yeah, it's
That's great.
night for us in Europe, but I think that time will work. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's still Monday.
So perfect. So let's do it Monday. We will go through everybody's angles, USPs. We'll tweak them. You know, nightmare stories. We should. Yeah. So I guess you're gonna be getting in touch with Josh, right, for some requests. We'll start
Yes.
filling in. I'll make it a request document for nightmare stories and whatever corresponding like comparisons. And yeah, and then we'll just go tweak stuff, and then I don't know if you guys seen that document that I put on there. There are already some really good ideas for angles for the "You Are Going to Die" and how-to tips, right? Actually, all three tips. So yeah,
Cool.
tweak them to whatever you like. Sounds good. I'll see you guys on Monday then.
Cool, man. Thanks for all the information, and see you on Monday and talk soon.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you,
Bye.
man.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.